just go live with this then.
Okay.
You're live.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder to everybody about declarations of interest. Please ensure that if you are involved or have any dealings with anything that's on the agenda, please declare it on declarations of interest, please. Thank you. I will open the meeting now, and apologies for absent. We've got Paul Warrington, Doc Pollen, John Bevan, and Bex. I've forgotten the third name.
Rebecca Norton.
Beck Norton, that's it. We haven't got any more, have we? So
Ron has just arrived.
Oh, hi, Rana. Okay, that's good. Right, we move on to declarations of interest. Is there anybody who want to declare a declaration? Consider any written application for dispensation. There's none of those. Yes, Paul?
Yeah, I don't know whether we're going to chase it. I still need to talk to Diane. But the 81 Ecroyd.
Okay.
Yeah, I might have something to say there, but not necessarily in this forum. It's not for this forum.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you're not going to mention anything of that nature with regard to that planning application, then I still think perhaps it might be a good idea, because when we come to it, you might want to say something. Okay, so you've mentioned it and we'll get it signed up.
Aye.
Okay.
On that subject as well, Lee, that book is in my kitchen at the moment.
Okay, can you leave 2 spaces?
2 spaces, aye. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Well, when I get home tomorrow, I'll fill it in.
Okay, I'll collect it tomorrow.
All right.
Right, opportunities for speaker. Well, we've got no speakers, but Bob Matthews, who has had a very busy schedule this week, and I mentioned some of that, that he's sent me. He says that he's quite happy with our decision on the bus pulling, and that he supports our comments that we sent to the highways. Also, he would like to ensure that they have, or that we've got it minuted, that they erect a rail fence, a posted and rail fence around the area, and also a bus shelter. Okay, so we'll include that. That's what we want. I'm not quite sure. I think it's already on the our comments, but certainly, yes, we must make sure that that's done. He also has mentioned that after an awful lot of hard work and being responsible for bringing about a change of administration of the administration of 2019, he is pleased to report the council have agreed to the Eastern Bypass as the preferred way forward, or preferred way forward. He has been working closely with local businessmen, and they are all supporting that route, or the ones that he spoke to are supporting that route. He said he's sorry he can't be at the meeting tonight, but he's zoomed out because he's been on so many Zoom meetings. But he does wish everybody a happy Christmas and a new year, and hopes to see us in the new year. So that's the report from the ward councillor, Mr. Bob Matthews. I'll forward that on to you, Lee.
Thank you.
Okay. Public question time. Is there anything from the public, Lee?
Not at the moment, but just a reminder to anyone that's watching, you can comment on either the Facebook or the Nextdoor app, or even the YouTube feed, and we'll deal with the question or comment at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Right. We now move on to the approval and the signing of the minutes of the last meeting, which was 16th of November. Are you happy that I sign that as a true record? Could we make sure that the people that proposed that and signed that were actually at the last meeting? So a proposer and a seconder, please. Rana will propose and Martin will second. Oh, thank you, Jen. We've got an abundance of hands then.
We're keen.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to sign that. And we're the 16th of December. Okay. Right, we now move on to the financial report, and we'd like to cover 61, 62, 63 and 64. Lee.
Okay, so the closing bank balance was 83,738.93. During the period, we had the normal incomings, so the rent, a bit of CCN advertising, one of which was overdue last month, which is now paid. The grant from Hereford Council for the Roman Park for the COVID lockdown. As you can see, interest rates have now really dropped through the floor, so we're only getting 65 pence a month on, or 68 pence on the 79,000 that's in the Lloyd's savings account at the moment. Payments for the period, so the next payment from last month plus all of the other payments that were approved at the last meeting, so that's those. They've gone out, and then the 2 direct debits for the electricity there. So to authorise this month, we've got the ABC printing, 315, which is the CCN actually for December. I've made a mistake there, I'll change that on the final. Craig is high this month because what he's done is invoiced us for the redecoration of the hall that he did last month, because there was quite a few materials on there, so we're claiming the VAT back on those. And then I've re-invoiced the community hall for the aspect that where's that? £627 for the recharge. Now that's actually now been paid as well in the last few days. So there's Craig, materials, myself, which is the normal expenses that goes out, wages and HMRC. That's the hedge cutting and the weed treatment for the season. Now I followed this up because the final weed treatment hasn't been applied, so I'm going to recommend that you make the payment on the basis that I've got an email saying that the treatment will be done between now and the end of January, and I'll monitor that as long as councillors are happy with that. And then there's £27, which was if you remember, we gave Hereford Cleanup Group £250 for items of equipment for cleaning up and so on. This is the last £27 that they had remaining, because we previously purchased items, so that's the last of that, which is signs that they'll be putting on bins and in areas where there's litter and dog fouling problems. There needs to be a transfer of £3,000 to cover the costs going out during the period. Once the transfers have happened, we'll be left with, and the payments have gone out, we'll be left with 79,000. Debtors, as I mentioned, we've invoiced the hall, which has now been paid. Hair at Home hasn't paid. I'm going to chase that up again. I haven't heard from her, so I think we might need to take that advert out on the next edition. Hereford City Sports, they've played another game since this as well, but that's still not paid, so again I'll chase that. The culvert recharge, that's actually now been paid the last few days, and there's an item on the agenda for that a little bit further along. So liabilities, just the normal bits and bobs that are normally outstanding. So the WebEx, the web hosting. WebEx didn't come in until after this was done, actually. The British Gas, electricity for the changing rooms and the car park lights. And then the rest of the liabilities remain the same, apart from the HMRC VAT creditor, negative creditor, which we're just building up. We recharged in March, or reclaimed in March. So that leaves us with £80,146.09. That's broken down into various reserves. 38,863 of that is the bus pulling that Terry just mentioned, and then we've got various funds that we've set aside for different projects, so the Roman Park, culverts and so on. So that's the finances for the period. Just go across to this. So this is the normal format that I produce, which is the comparison between budget, so the year-to-date spend and actual spend, and compared to what the budget is for the same period of time. So there's very minor differences, some bigger ones which we discuss each meeting, but I'll go over it again. CCM printing, there was an addition not printed, and we did the procurement exercise this year, so there's savings there. The costs, again, there's very minimal differences, £200 there as well. So operating costs, we saved £1,588 year to date. We've overspent on the unplanned costs because of the extra grants we paid out during the year, but as mentioned, we had the COVID grant, so, and plus we've had an extra £1,334 this month, so year to date variance, we're up 9653. So that's that. Terry, unless anyone's got any questions.
I'm quite happy with it. We've already discussed that, Gary and I, but has anybody else got anything to say on that, please?
There's 2 invoices that have come in since I did the agenda, which I would quite like us to add to the payments if we are minded to do so. Because of the mild November, the grass in the Roman Park needed an extra cut,
Yeah.
which cost us £86.40 plus VAT. And in the previous meeting, we agreed the repairs to the ramp up to the changing rooms. Now, we originally agreed a cost of £190, and the work's been done, and it's actually coming at less anyway. So there's a £50 saving there on the work. I've been to inspect the job, and it's great. It's done a good job there. So. And it's less money. So if we're happy to add those to the payments, that will mean we're then fully up to date with everything. Terry,
What was the amount on the other one, please, Lee?
which one? The grass cutting? Or
yeah, the grass cutting.
103.68, and then
yeah,
140 for good and property maintenance.
Okay.
Which has obviously been agreed. On the,
yeah.
We approved 190, so okay.
Okay. Is there any comments on the finance report? And is there any objections to the additional £243.68 for the items that Lee's just mentioned, which is the ramp at Roman Park and the extra grass cut? Could I have a proposer and a seconder, unless there's any objections to that, please? A proposer and a seconder, please.
Happy to propose.
Thank you, Jenny.
Including the 2 extra checks that Lee's added on.
Thank you very much. Blood, you're okay? Thank you very much. Okay, we move on now to planning. This came in after Paul, Lee and myself met with regards to 3 Trenchard, but this is the 3rd application for 81 Eckroyd Park, and it's to replace the double garage with a two-story dwelling. It's a revised scheme. The difference in the scheme is the upstairs floor plan was originally for 2 bedrooms. It is now for 3. With the extra bedroom, my concern is, and it's always been our concern with regard to 81, is if this house is occupied by a family with teenagers, each having a car each, or even one of them having a car, the cul-de-sac would be jammed with cars, which is very unfair to the residents that already live there and have great problems anyway, and there's been quite a few upsets and so forth. So we will comment on this if you'll allow us to do so. We will get together with Paul and Lee, and we'll have a quick discussion on our comments. But Lee has already spoken to the planning department today. Have you got the notes on that, Lee? Oh, there they are.
By the way, the comments date has now moved as well to the 4th of January.
Okay. So, Paul, if we can have a get together sometime on that, and then we'll discuss it. And Andrew, sorry.
Yeah.
If we could get together on that sometime and put together some notes. If the Parish Council are happy with us to put some notes together, mainly on the grounds that we have already commented twice on the application, and each time we've made comments about the parking, and that the house should be a family house rather than a house of multiple occupation, and that is mainly down to the parking, the concerns that we have about the parking. That will be the comments that we make once we've discussed it and how to put it forward.
Do you want me to just give councillors an update on what the
yes, please.
Planners said? So one of the queries I raised with them on the previous application, the council asked me to go back and ask them to add a condition that no on-road parking is allowed, and that wasn't added as a condition. So I queried why that was not added, and they've come back and essentially said that they can't do that. They don't have the power to do that. They can't stop you from parking on the road, which I know in some properties in the village there are covenants that do not allow parking on the actual road, on Centurion Way, for example. But that's actually on the property itself, and on the land there is a covenant, whereas the covenant doesn't already exist on the land, so they can't add to it. So that was a clarification. And the other was the proposed drive layout for vehicles is no different to the application that was previously refused. And they've just confirmed essentially that further details were added to the new application, which have given them reassurances from the new information. They've basically said they haven't said that there's any differences, and I can't see any differences. The original officer put a health and safety concern and risk, highways health and safety concern and risk, as a main objection to the planning going ahead, referring to, I can't remember the policy now, but it's on the original.
MT1.
Yes, Thank you. So I think Terry's asking for the council to delegate powers to the planning committee to be allowed to make comments based on the same comments as previous. Is that right, Terry?
Yeah. Is everybody happy with that? Can I have a proposal in a second that we do that?
Chairman, can I just clarify then that there will be no extra comments than previously submitted?
Well, the comments that
there's nothing new to add.
Well, there is new to add, Jenny, in as much as that there's 3 bedrooms, and certainly on the fact that with 3 bedrooms that you know, if they've got teenagers with cars and so forth, it's going to be 10 times worse. But
So
the other thing,
is that an overdevelopment? Sorry, Terry. Is that an overdevelopment comment really you're making then? Is that essentially?
Yeah.
Could I ask if we could, all myself and the other councillors could have a copy or just be CC'd on the email so that we know what comment?
Of course you can.
Made of a collective, that would be great.
Okay.
The only other way to do it, Jen, would be to have a extraordinary meeting.
No, it'd just be nice to know, just to know before it. Not even it just so that just for our information, really,
Yes,
we know that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely
no
not a problem.
Saves me having to go into the planning website and find out.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Could I have a proposal that we do that? That you delegated to the planning.
Committee. To propose.
Okay, Jenny and Plod again.
Yep.
Are you laying down? Are you exhausted?
I'm in a hotel room, so there's nowhere else to be but on the bed.
Okay. Right. Hi, Dina. Nice to see you. Town well. We've got a couple of applications for Town well, and because it's a listed building, we will probably get quite a few of them as they modernise this very large building. So the last one that we put in was no comments. That will be determined at the end of the week.
Yeah.
End of next week. Beginning, 19th. When's the 19th?
This week, but they never hit that target, Terry, anyway.
Right, 3 Trenchard. We put the comments in for that. Have we seen that? The comments. There was no comments on that. Well, there was comments. We put in.
We haven't put them in yet, Terry, because they changed the date to today. I'm going to do it after the meeting.
Okay, let me see if I can find it here, what I put.
Originally, it was before the meeting. The comments were, weren't they?
Yeah. Sorry about this. Recent. Right, planning report. Okay, this I think it's been corrected a little bit by Lee, corrected my English. The Parish Council Working Group met on the 2nd of December to discuss the above planning application. After a discussion about the effects it would have on those living nearby, it was decided that there was no reason not to support this application on the grounds that the precedents had been set with other neighbours who have similar extensions. Adjoining neighbours have been made aware by the Parish Council of their right to reply to the Planning Department. The group requested that the condition be made with regard to how the applicant has deliveries made. If through the fence that backs onto the station road, there should be no blocking of the pavement or vehicles parked on station road. Obstructions would make it difficult for social distancing, as this is right next to the bus service stop. That actually backs out right onto the bus stop, so That's the comments that we will put to the planning department tomorrow, if you're happy to accept that as a reasonable comments. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah. Thank you. Long Friday Farm, that has been approved with conditions. I think it was today or yesterday. There's no further movement on the 100 houses off the 480. Bob Matthews has got no update on it, so I assume that it's still ongoing, and the reconsultation on the 106 agreement obviously is taking up their time as part of it. Here we are again with Credenhill Town Well. This is one that we supported last time. As I said, this is likely to be several of these coming in as they upgrade their house. But of course, because everything that they do with a listed building, they must put a fresh application. It must be quite costly. Okay. Update on rural areas site application, DPD and Credenhill Neighbourhood Development Plan options available to the Parish Council. Now, there's the options there. Continue. Oops. Continue to rely on the core strategy for planning policy within the parish, and Herefordshire Council will formally withdraw the neighbourhood area for the parish. Decide to produce a neighbourhood plan in the absence of the RASAP DBD, which will prove additional policy for the parish until the review of the local plan, or await the outcome of the local plan update. Now, Lee and I had a meeting with the planning at the council today, and after a discussion, it was agreed that we would possibly, with your consent, wait for option 3 for the local plan to be updated. Now, Lee, you've got the all the jargon on that, haven't you? So would you just talk on that for me, please?
So obviously the Parish Council decided not to go ahead with a neighbourhood development plan. When I let them know about that, there was then these changes to what they were doing. So the local plan will be updated in the next 12 months, and within that will be the new allocation of how many houses need to be provided for growth within Credenhill, within the parish. So we discussed with them the fact, what benefits would it be to us having a neighbourhood plan, not having a neighbourhood plan, and asked, you know, are there any risks? And one of the risks I had identified before was that with Section 106 money, if you have a neighbourhood development plan, you are guaranteed 25%. Whereas if you don't have a neighbourhood plan, you're only guaranteed 15%. Now, what they reassured us today was that whilst that is policy, they haven't been following that as such. They've not been. That's a minimum policy, but they can then say, well, what do you need in the parish? Oh, okay, you need 80% of the Section 106, or you need all of it, or even more. And so what they've been doing is working on a case-by-case scenario. So in actual fact, that isn't a risk, and that's the only negative risk of not having an NDP. Now, if we had lots of different developers with lots of different landowners around the parish, then it would be, she recommended it would be beneficial for us to have an NDP, because you'd have people fighting to develop different areas of land. But we've got a very different situation in Credenhill, in the sense that the land around the outside is owned by the same person or people. So it's likely that they're going to develop the land from the centre of the village outwards, and any developable land will be within the centre of the village rather than in fields, miles away. So they were supportive of the parish council deciding not to have a neighbourhood development plan, in the sense that we didn't seem to need one. It would be a lot of extra administration. There's parishes now spending £2,000 or £3,000 every 5 years on consultants to get their plans updated, and that's clearly something we don't really want to be funding necessarily if there's no benefit in doing it. But there is this local plan's going to be updated, so in a sense we don't really have to make a final decision until then. So you could agree to have a holding pattern until the local plan comes out. They will let us know in that local plan how many houses, and they don't know yet, they've not had the government figures, how many houses are going to be allocated to Crevenhill to come up with. But also we will know from that which landowners have submitted land for potential development as well. So, that's really good information from the Parish Council's point of view, because we can start working with them early to look at areas where we want infrastructure improvements and so on as part of those developments. I think that's it.
In fact, the figures that was put out to us was only Orchard House development, and the other houses at the top of the village, and one or two others are the ones that are actually mentioned there, which is the 74. The 100 houses on the 480 site are not included in those figures.
So we've got a residual of 57 houses to find before 2031.
Yeah. Okay. Comments, ladies and gentlemen. I can't hear anybody.
I think the wait and see sounds to be the yeah. There are many changes, so let's wait and see what those many changes bring about. Then we can make a decision.
Yeah.
Martin, you was going to say something.
I agree with what Todd has just said. Let's await the outcome of the local plan. My experience of neighbourhood development plans is that they're expensive, divisive, and get out of date. So,
yeah.
Let's await the outcome of the local plan. I propose that.
Okay, thank you, Martin. You seconded it, Bob. Paul, I mean. Anybody else got any comments, though, before we... No? Okay. So you got that, did you, Lee?
Yep.
Martin proposed and Claude seconded that. Okay. Right, we now move on to the report's finances. I don't think there's anything further to say on that except for the budget later on we've got. Is there?
Yeah, we need to finalise that this evening so that I can put the precept form into Hereford Council by the end of the month.
Right, we'll do that. We'll do that at 10.
Yeah.
Right, community hall. There's been quite a lot going on there, even though there's been no meetings, etc. But the main thing that they've been trying to do is to organise some form of heating. And long term, the actual not extension of the hall, but redeveloping the site so it's more user friendly to accommodate all the extra people that we're going to have coming into the village. Lee, did you want to further on that, because you've been working with them quite closely?
Yeah, I think we've got quite a full agenda tonight. So what is probably best to do on this one is if I send an email out with the architect's designs that they forwarded to us, and with an explanation of what the ideas are and so on, and what was within that meeting.
Okay. Is everybody happy with that?
Because we need to get the the budget done today, and there's quite a lot on that, I think.
Okay. Everybody happy with that? Yep. Okay, so we'll move the comments, and you'll send out the plans and notes and so forth, and we can discuss at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Right, footpath. Plod. You haven't been down there. You're always away.
Unmute, Paul. Unmute.
Yeah, well, the footpaths I had managed to walk, which are few, are very muddy and very slippery, is my comment. But obviously that's the season. And that's my feedback. I speak to people who use the footpath next to me quite regularly, and that's their comment as well, muddy and slippery. But what can you do?
We can't do anything really.
No, it's to the beast.
Right, shops and businesses. Sorry, I'm moving on, Paul.
Terry?
Yeah.
As regards footpaths, could we ask, do we know how long the wood is going to be closed for tree felling?
I do not know. Do we know, Lee?
Is there a sign up then?
Yes, it's got red tape up above the church.
Oh, okay.
Saying it's closed. Have we been notified?
No. I can make an inquiry though.
Okay.
Okay.
That's unusual because we normally get notified, and then I can put a post out to the general public, letting them know what's going on. Okay.
Is that actually what they're doing, or is that?
That's what it says. It says closed danger tree felling.
Okay. Right. Well, we'll investigate that one.
Thank you.
Okay. War memorial. Dina.
Nothing to report.
Lee, did we have something? Can we move that to January?
No, there's a thing further down for the war memorial.
Is there?
Just on the shops that you skipped over. We've rearranged the community litter pick around the shops, which we agreed 2 meetings ago. We've rearranged that for January, but just pending where we are with tiers and so on. Because it was decided that tier 2 we really shouldn't be doing a community litter pick during tier 2, but if we're in tier 1, hopefully we will be, then that will be a more suitable, because otherwise we're limited to 6 people, and the idea is to try and get as many people involved out of the shops and businesses as well as us. So that will be rearranged for January, assuming.
Right, a war memorial. Lee, sorry I flipped over that one. We have got an update on that, haven't we?
Yeah, it's further down, 9.8.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Right, flood alleviation scheme.
We've got agenda items for that as well.
Why have I missed that then? I still can't find it. What one is it?
9.2.
2 and 3. 9.2 and 3 flood alleviation scheme.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay. 8.7 schools. Rana, do you have anything on schools?
Yeah, they've had an outbreak of COVID recently, but it's not generally known. I think there's just one pupil.
One pupil, yeah.
Apart from that, I think they're okay.
Okay. Well, those classes have been isolated, haven't they? I don't know for how many days, but I know that they've been isolated and that. Okay, thank you. Anybody got anything to comment on that? No, thank you.
Can I just say so, Terry, about the schools?
Yeah.
Just a comment. I've had a few comments from local residents. From me, the school, for some reason, seems to start playing rather loud music during the day again. Now, I don't know whether it's this week or whether it's a permanent thing, but a few people who work nights don't. They're not appreciating the fact that it's blaring out, for one, which I've no problem running back onto it, but I've had a few comments about that. And are they not supposed to have a music license to to broadcast out like that to across the fields. I don't know, but that's just some comments I wanted to register from local residents I've heard this week.
Okay. I would say something on that, but I don't think I will because it might not be taken kindly. But it's like opposite me here. If you don't like play parks, don't move in by a play park. So with the loud music, unfortunately, sometimes a year, like sports days and things like that, you're going to get music. But all schools have to have a what's his name license, a PRS license. But with regards to broadcasting license, which they're not doing it on a regular basis, but only at specific times of the year, I'm sure that comes within the remit of the school and the council. So I should imagine if they've got any really serious complaints, then they should report it to the environmental agency. Lee?
It might well be that it's to do with St Mary's Got Talent, because they have a annual event and perhaps they've been doing it outside because of the rules, because that would be across year groups. But it has now been cancelled because of the outbreak, the single pupil that has tested positive. So 2 of the year groups obviously aren't there, so they've cancelled it, and it's being moved into the new year. So if it is to do with that, then it's going to happen again, is what I'm saying.
I know that Father Christmas is going to go, and if it was wet, I think it's tomorrow he's going. If it's wet, he'll be going outside. So it may be that because everything's happening outside, it's just possible that the music or whatever they're using is being heard.
I recall that.
If they need licenses and things, I would imagine that they would have them.
I recall going back to the previous headmaster, I forget his name now. He used to have welcoming music for the kids every morning at 8:30, 9:15, and I think it's great because it's a really happy, jolly-go-lucky thing, and it's better than a dreary bell. And that went on for quite some time, and then it silenced. And then I know this week it's come back in the form of it's kind of during the day, really, kind of midday. And I'm not talking the next door neighbours playing loud music. I mean, this is broadcasting right over the field, it's very loud. Saying a couple of residents who have moaned to me, I think they do night shifts and things, and of course it doesn't go. You can't ignore it. You can't get away from it at all. So I'm just feeding back to them. I didn't know whether this was going to become a regular thing, and if it was, then whether or not we can ask to turn that down a bit, or reconsider the options or whatever. So.
Okay, Paul. I wasn't really being dismissive, but sometimes it does make you feel that. No, I won't say anymore. But if you live near a school, you're going to get noise. And perhaps yes, we could ask them to be a little bit more considerate to the neighbours. But no, the response that we've had from other trees, I wouldn't hold your breath. Anything more?
No, perhaps Rhona could make just informal inquiries about noise. That would be perhaps the best way for us to approach that, maybe.
Yeah, I can ask about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Rhona.
I don't hear it at all, and I'm here. I would have thought that but then my windows are closed. So I guess if people have got windows open.
I could hear it and had all the windows shut and thought, crikey, what is that? I was working at home and thought, what was that noise? So it is noisy, but we do expect it. We live near a school, but if they could tweak it down a little bit for those that are sleeping during the day, that would be good.
Okay, thank you.
Tomorrow, no problem.
Thank you, Rhona.
Okay.
Right, Roman Park. Jenny?
I confess I've not been down to Roman Park this past month, so I'm not aware of any issues.
Nor have I, Jenny.
I walked it yesterday. we've replaced the ramp now for the changing rooms. So I inspected that. That's a great job. There's a few bits and bobs that still need doing on the changing rooms, which I'm waiting for prices on. The play item that got broke, that's been repaired, and I've retested it and tested all the other items. So everything down there seems okay at the moment. So just obviously we need to move the projects forward. The one issue on that I found, and I've mentioned it to Terry, there's some grants just come up through Sports England. There's a grant for between £10,000 and £30,000 projects, which sounds fantastic, but then when you read into it, you can only apply if you're a charity or a club or so on. Local authorities, statutory bodies and schools can't. There's another grant up to £10,000, same criteria as well. So I think for consideration, we might need to consider for the Roman Park to run it differently and perhaps set a group up of trustees to run the Roman Park. But I'm just concerned about getting volunteers, given how much we struggle to get people to do things in the village. That's
Lee, if I can just pop in. Also, apologies for being late this meeting. Have just done this. They've just set up a group for the sports field there, and they've appointed trustees to run it, and they've obviously realised that's the best way forward to claim any additional grants or funding.
Yeah.
Thank you. When does it close, Lee?
I think that it will be open a couple of months. They've got, I think, 300 million to distribute, and it's a pot of money that's been released by government for basically getting people back active and adapting areas for COVID. So, making things. So, for example, we could earmark that 30,000 for the gym equipment and put that together with some of the money we have, and then that would be an ideal situation there where we've got an active area where people can go and exercise outside, socially distanced, or perhaps, I don't know, the parkour idea that we've got on the Roman Park. That, again, it'd be spread out, it'd be ideal for the teenagers, keep them active, but we just can't get access to it. So I'm thinking that it's probably end of January type, and then it'll be closed. That's the other thing with these grants. You have to be quick off the mark. We're ready now. We've got the plans. We've got the quotes.
Could I just add, my understanding is that they would need to pay it into a charity account as opposed to our parish account.
Yeah,
and at the moment, banks are taking an extremely long time because you'd have to have your trustees in place. Yeah. So I suspect that just our banking and our governance we may not hit the target time-wise to get all of that in place.
Right. Yeah, these things are taking such a long time these days.
We've got to get, we've got to get 5-6 people as well on board to be part of the group. Just to even suggest that it's a viable idea. Is it something we want to start advertising for to see if there's a viable option?
I think we should. Okay, we might run out of time on this one, but if we can sort of get a group together and get working on it, there will be other grants that we will be able to call on. But if we haven't done anything, then we won't be able to, will we?
No.
What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I'm. This is what I'm doing in my day job, so I'm really aware of it at the moment. But yeah, I think put the message out there. You just don't know who we have within the village that might have knowledge and may be able to sort of point us in the direction. And also we really need to consider the trustee position. It's quite a responsibility. So it's not something to be entered into lightly, is it?
No.
So yes, definitely we need to get that in place going forward.
Okay. So I will create some posters and things and start advertising them. And then based on feedback, then the council can make a decision, can't you?
Yeah, if we can get it obviously into the CCN as well. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, we can try.
Yeah.
But as I said, you know, if it's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months, so be it. But if we haven't done that groundwork, then we've got no chance at all, have we? Okay. Social club. Nothing from Paul.
No update.
Well, are they open?
No.
No. Asset management. We've got nothing to report on that, Lee, have we?
No, because it's all in the budget. What we've done on that. So
COVID-19. I think you sent out an email with all the updates from the council on that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Has anybody got any comments to make on that one? No. Okay. Okay, so we've done the working groups. If we can move on to matters arising, and this is the one that's going to take up our time. Correspondence received from Gabs Sisters in relation to the registration of the parish council land.
Okay, so when Terry and I met with this solicitor originally, this was in Hereford, they confirmed that the cost would be £750 per parcel of land, which they've now confirmed in writing that is the case. But then it also says plus land registry fee and so on. The land registry fee is initially, I was of the understanding from the meeting that the fee would be in the £30 per plot of land, because the land itself isn't actually worth anything because it's got covenants on it. That means you can't actually build on either plot of land. So where the social club is, you can't build houses, and the Roman Park, you can't build houses on there either. However, the fee includes the buildings and assets on there. So the Roman Park falls in the £200, and the community centre is over £1 million because of the buildings on there. So £680. So there's £880 there we haven't budgeted for. So I've got it in writing back from them that is the case. One of the things that we are in the process of doing is getting the FAS completed. So the deed of easement and the TP1, which they've now confirmed that they're going to go back and get the next draft of. Now, as part of the TP1 land transfer, that has an impact on our deed. It's a transaction on our deed, which means that the land has to be registered, and it's not currently registered. So because Hereford Council want to put a transaction on our land, I think we can go back to Hereford Council and say, well, you need to pay the fee for the land registry, because it's not us that needs that doing. They need it doing to transfer our land into their possession for the alleviation scheme. So the solicitor agrees that is a valid argument, so they've gone back with that request for them to fund it. So I'm hoping that they'll fund that, but the short and long of it is, if they don't fund it, we're £880 short on the budget for that item. So we could budget for it next year is what I'm getting at. So that's an update on that, Terry.
Yeah. I don't know how the council would feel about it. I'm quite happy with the budget that we've set. If we do have to go into our reserves, then so be it on that one. I think we're allowed to do that.
Well, our budget is so lean now, let's call it, that we don't really have any general reserves to dip in unless we make savings elsewhere. That's just how we've budgeted now. So the only option would be we've put aside £11,000 next year for the culvert repairs, and the next item, which we're going to go into, means that we can't actually do the culvert repairs next year because we won't have the funds from Hereford Council. So you don't really need to save the 11,000, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Because we can't actually start the culverts next year, so there's no need to raise the full 11,000.
I think it's to be a discussion to be had in the new year, because we can't keep going on leaving the culverts, because if they collapse, then we're going to be in big trouble. I think the other problem is we can't insure them, which makes it even worse. So can I suggest that in the new year that we get together, the finance group or whatever, or a group of people, and discuss the possibility of in 2022 that if need be we could go forward and seek a loan, get them completed and spread the costs over so many years.
Okay.
So what's the views on that, please, ladies and gentlemen?
So with regards to the registration of Parish Council land, it could, worst case scenario, we're talking about £800, are we?
Yeah.
In addition.
So we're in a position now, we really need to proceed with this now, Lee, do we?
Well, it hasn't been registered since 1970, when we bought it, and it should have been.
Yeah, so if that's the case, we're talking about £800. I personally would be quite happy to propose that. You go ahead with that, and you put all the hard work into that, and we're paying a solicitor to do that as well. So
I think,
that's my opinion, anyway.
Ultimately, we ought to get it done. And it's another job off the list of things that haven't been done.
You mean the registration?
Yeah.
I'd be happy to propose that anyway.
But okay, Andrew, where are we going to take those funds from, and are we going to add it to our draft budget?
If we have to, then yes. But I do believe that, as Lee said, we.
Harry, can I have a word?
Yes, just a sec, Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a sec. Andrew,
I was seconding.
Can you hold on just a sec, please, Martin? Can you just finish, Andrew, what you were saying?
Okay, I forgot what I was going to say now. I really, it's one of those jobs. Lee's put the work in. We've been told that it'll be a good idea to do that now for £800. If it means increasing the budget, except then so be it. But I'm sure the way Lee manages the parish council over the years, he'll probably make that up anyway in the next.
You're right. Sorry, Martin. Sorry about that.
I was going to second what Andrew was saying, and didn't Lee show us that we're already 1,500 in hand in the budget this year? So finding 800 is not going to be difficult for us, frankly, is it? So
in next year's budget includes the reserves that I've calculated, and that includes the savings. So don't get too excited about seeing the savings. I've already used them. Next year is the first year where the budget is lean, and we have already done procurement exercises on every single cost line apart from me. So.
Yeah, but we've got the option on all the other ones of whether we spend on the assets or the grants. And
yes. So you could say, well, there's repairs and maintenance budget, for example. We may have some of that left over this year. but I was kind of hoping we could accelerate some of the other repairs that need doing to the buildings. But
and we've had all this COVID grant, this 1,300 we've got, so there is money there that we could find.
That's Roman Park, though, isn't it? The reason we have that money is because the Roman Park's closed.
But aren't we registering Roman Park?
Good point. Yeah, okay.
So, you know.
True.
And we have another lockdown in January. It'll be £100.
We've got the money. It's just a question of shuffling it from one column to another. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, Martin. We say Martin said it's okay.
I mean, obviously, I'm happy for us to go ahead and get it done because it's one more thing off our list that is done, you know, and then we don't need to look at it again. It protects us. It protects our land, particularly the situation with the Glebe Close residents. What we might find from this, though, when we do the searches, is that people have already registered our land under their ownership. We'll come to that if we find it.
Okay. Is anybody else got any comments to make on that, please? Andrew, did you want to say?
No. Carry on.
Okay.
I agree with the previous two speakers, Andrew and Martin, that we need to do it. It's not a huge sum of money.
Can I have a proposal, please, that's what we do? Okay, Plod and Andrew, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, ladies and gentlemen. Correspondence received from the Herefordshire Council, Station Road. Okay. Lee, you're going to speak on this?
So essentially, Mary Lane, who is the head of infrastructure for Hereford Council, has done really what I asked of her, and she has tried and spoken to the director within Hereford Council to see if they are willing to or able to help us and fund a third of the culvert repairs, which would have meant we could do the work in 2022 because the funds would be raised next year, and then we'd start the project in 2022. And essentially they've come back and said no in a polite email. So all that does is really informs our budget for next year, that even though we've put £11,000 aside, that isn't actually going to get us anywhere, if you see what I mean, other than having an extra £11,000 towards the work. So that's just really an update on that. I don't know if there's any...
Well, there's very little we can say, really, but it's funny that I was talking to Bob Matthews earlier, and he was asked that my editor's come back and said that there's no money because he was told that they would look at it and they were sure that they could find something to help us. So I've left that with him anyway. Okay. Move on to 9.3, is that okay? Correspondence received from Herefordshire Council in response to the flood report.
Okay, so I think I forwarded this to everybody. So short and long of it is they do monthly maintenance on the flood alleviation scheme. The scheme's designed to alleviate flooding, but not to eliminate it. Their resources are stretched and they're not going to change the way they manage it at the moment. So essentially, thanks for the report, nothing's going to change, is my cynical view.
Okay. Comments, ladies and gentlemen. Paul? Claude?
Unmute button. I hadn't seen this one, Lee. Lower than basic grounds allowable to pass, yes. Yeah.
I'm sure I've sent it you, Plod. I'll send it again.
Yeah, the chap who did visit us was firmly under the opinion that the lake had actually flooded us. And I wasn't present, but I disabused him of the notion and pointed out that all of the water actually came off the road or up the drains.
Yeah, it's mentioned in the report. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was firmly of the opinion that the presence of the lake, and the fact is that we used the lake to pump as much as we could into the lake, and that was carried away. It was more of a saviour for us than anything else. There is a grant for those people affected to carry out works to harden properties, and hopefully the next year or the year after we'll be in a position to take advantage of that, and hopefully they'll work with us, because if our surface water drains could be fitted where they join on to that drain in the lane, if they could be fitted with a non-return valve, then we wouldn't get the back flooding as that we saw. And if we can install for ourselves some sort of sump and pump arrangement that moves water into the lake as it builds up, and the lake discharge takes care of that, then that might be something we can do in the future. But I have to say they've been quite responsive to householders that have had a problem.
Yeah,
that's one thing that definitely should be mentioned, because they were around.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, days after the flooding, and the guy has been round to see the place as well.
Yeah, it's quite interesting when you mention your lake, because I was speaking to a gentleman from Welsh Water a couple of days ago, and he was saying that the flooding on Roman Road, you know, at the cottages, was probably caused by the lake, by where the car boot sale is. I can't think of the name of the house there now. Because he's got a system similar to yourself where the water flows in one end and goes out the other. But apparently he put a gate up, and this is just hearsay, to be honest. Apparently there's a gate put up. When it was opened, it flooded those houses. But I still think myself that it was something to do with the fact that the grids were blocked on the flood alleviation scheme, and that the deluge of water that went down flooded the balancing ponds, which are opposite those cottages.
Yeah, this is the sort of line that I contest, really, in the email, the letter they've sent to us. It says the amount of debris that collects on the trash screen during a severe storm is unlikely to materially impact the function of the FAS. Now, clearly from the photos that we were sent from the gentleman that cleared the screen, it was very evident that the water dropped within half an hour, a couple of foot.
Yeah.
The field, Baxter's field, that was completely flooded. Within an hour, it was empty.
Yeah.
You know, and that's no coincidence. The screen was cleared from debris, and they are denying that evidence, and that's really disappointing.
That was also true of us. It wasn't until that screen was cleared that we actually saw a reduction in water levels, and whatever we tried to do, RB pumping, it didn't seem to have any impact at all. And it wasn't until I went out to go and get something, and I passed by, and I think I met you, Lee, that clearing the screen was the event that actually reduced the levels, and our flooding started to recede.
So I've got an action point from the council to create a draft resilience plan, which is the community resilience plan, which will include flooding, and I think based on the responses we've had from various stakeholders, the only way to deal with this is to deal with it ourselves within that plan, because nobody else is willing to do it.
Well, I'm willing to be on the call out list, obviously, because it's personally effective, and of course I've got the winch on the Land Rover and so on and so forth that might come in handy.
Thank you.
The only concerns I've got about that is health and safety, and that if you did go near the flood alleviation scheme, with the parish council who have instigated the working group or how you want to put it, would be responsible if you was drowned or whatever, you know.
I understand your concern, and perhaps it's the villagers. We should arm ourselves with pitchforks and do and do the job as villagers, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that's is probably it's one of the places that when we get heavy rainfall like we had there, and we get situations and conditions where we see rising levels, I know that it's going to be my first stop is to go and have a look at the flood alleviation screens.
Yeah.
And if I see a build up, then I'll probably set to and start doing it exactly like those folks they were actually from further upstream, weren't they, Lee? They were from
Kenchester.
Kenchester, yes.
Yes, their property, in fact, they were developers and they purchased the property and just spent £25,000 on their new kitchen in their swanky house. And it flooded for the first time ever. And they literally came down to clear the grill because that then unflooded their kitchen.
Bloody hell.
Mm.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I think it might be worth. Have we shared the sort of flood report with the CCN in the CCN perhaps? I mean, there was
it's on the website. It's been shared with Hereford Council, local landowners, Balfour Beatty. We've also had the flood survey, which I've put letters through every property that was affected by flooding. I've been and visited the properties and put a letter through their doors, which you should have got one, Paul.
Yeah.
Just making people aware that Hereford Council are doing a survey to look at future-proofing the county. And I've also, I've filled that in obviously because I was affected, but also that report was submitted as part of that survey process. So there's very little more we can do really. We've had responses from landowners and so on. The drainage teams have visited Glebe Close Station Road and Mill Lane and cleared the gullies. So, you know, what more can we do other than create an emergency response ourselves?
Yeah,
we've got no other choice, have we?
With as Terry's pointed out, it's difficult to officially sanction something like that. But
well, what the resilience plan will do will give people roles, and if people go up beyond the roles, then that's not sanctioned by the parish council, is it?
And if those roles are just to monitor
and inform the authorities.
Yes. Good point.
Yeah.
That's fine, Lee. But we all know that there's cameras on that flood alleviation scheme, and Balfour Beatty can see what's happening there, but they didn't come out and do anything about it. So if you phone them up, are they going to do anything about it? Not for a couple of days, because you know, it's not viable for a call out. You know, so I don't know.
When I was doing the ditch that was at the bottom of my land and putting a pipe and so on, I got told by the council that the ditch was mine as a landowner to maintain, and I said, fine, I'm going to maintain it by putting a plastic pipe and connecting to your pipe. They said, you can't touch our pipe. So I said, well, this is going to da da da. The man from the council came out, unofficially said to me that my scheme was a good idea and sound, and it would be unlikely that I would receive any sanction if my actions had improved the situation. So I throw that in terms of if our response is to observe and monitor and inform, if they then don't turn out and we take measures ourselves to prevent the flooding of our own homes, then it would be very difficult to censure the individual for actually protecting his property.
Yeah. So I agree with you there.
So what Lee's saying is, if our resilience plan has a number of observers, if you like, and or reporters that maybe report back to the parish council, parish clerk to report to the council, then if those individuals then actually, having seen no response, take matters into their own hands, then it does cover the back of the parish council, and it then devolves onto the shoulders of the individuals carrying out the action. And if it means that I don't get a couple of inches of muddy water throughout my house, well then guess what?
Okay, Paul, if you don't mind, I think we need to move on because we've got a lot to cover tonight. But you're quite right, and the report from the council, who was report from?
That was from Balfour Beatty Stakeholder Management. So they just basically manage responses to things.
Okay, so what I was going to say, it's typical of the council led contractors to come up with a letter like that to slopey shoulder some of the work that they should be doing. Sorry I've said that, but it's true. Right, we move on. Herefordshire Council consultation, the future of rubbish and recycling in Herefordshire, and the future of mobility, Royal Strategy Call for evidence and consultation. Is that?
Yeah, there's two consultations going on at the moment, just to make you aware, and they've both got submission deadlines in February, so happy to revisit this in January if you...
Okay.
I've already forwarded information out to councillors.
Has anybody got any comments to make on that at the moment? No? Okay, so if we revisit that in January, that will be great. In the meantime, if you could have a look through the email that Lee sent, and then we can discuss it then in January. Update on signage for Ancient Stone in the village, called the Village Green. I think Lee's already sent things out on that. What's to be said on that, Lee?
Martin's put his hand up.
To save time, shall we move this to January to save a bit of time?
Okay, if you're happy.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Request to receive support and funding for the school for installation of a school sign as part of the main sign on the village green. Lee, you've got the paperwork for that.
Yeah, so this is a request from the school. Balfour Beatty have been out and looked at it. There you can see school sign on the main sign that's on, and then that's from the other direction. I've been back and asked if they're able to put the full name of the school, and they said basically it's not required because there's only one school there. Essentially, there's not more than one school. So cost-wise, it's approximately £90. And the school have asked if we would consider paying it, because we can do it through the community commissioning model. The school haven't actually got a way of doing it, essentially, but we have, because we've got the power to put road signs up.
Comments on that, ladies and gentlemen? I can't see any hands.
We can find £90, by the way.
Right.
Sorry, Martin, you're muted.
Martin, yeah, sorry, Martin.
Do it for £90, yes.
You're happy with that? You propose that?
Yes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay. Everybody happy with that? No objections? No?
Yeah.
We'll go for that then. Request and receive support. I haven't got that one. Census. 2021 census. Has everybody seen the notes that's come through on that?
Mm-hmm.
Any comments?
So I'll keep this on the agenda until then, essentially.
Okay.
And I'll keep everybody updated and post on social media, etc.
Yeah. Receive for war memorial grant opportunities.
Okay, so the War Memorial Trust have a option for us for any grants less than £5,000. One of the criteria is that we need to have grants that are, quotes for the work that are comparable. And at the moment we've had 2 quotes, but they're not comparable, because one's for a clean and some restoration, and the second quote we have is for a full restoration. Now, it's quite difficult for me to mention the figures, because we need to I've gone out to other suppliers, essentially, and what I want to do is keep the tender process confidential, but obviously we've got a budget to discuss tonight, so it's quite... So if we're not successful with the grants, we could fund the memorial. Let's just say it'd be less than £2,500 and leave it at that. We could fund that out of the £11,000 that we're putting aside for the culverts, potentially, on the basis that we're not doing anything with the culverts next year, but we could actually fully restore the memorial. Now, obviously, that's on the basis that we don't get the grant. It is likely that we will get some money towards it, if not all of it, given the cost. So I've gone to 3 companies in Herefordshire for further quotes, and I've asked them to base their quotes on the same specification as the first quote.
Okay. Any comments on that, ladies and gentlemen? Are you speaking, dear? I can't hear you.
No comments here.
Okay. Okay, there's no comments on that, Lee. I think what you said is in as much as that you want to carry on with the the quotes. Can we discuss this at the next meeting?
Well, yes, but I'm just trying to think of a way to have some flexibility in next year's budget to allow you to get on with doing it if we're not successful with the grant application. Because if we put reliance, I've got to be honest, and I don't know.
I've got to be honest, and I don't know how the other councillors feel, but I don't think we should start spending the money for the flood alleviation scheme, because at the end of the day, we've got to do something with it, and spent the money, then I'm not happy really with diverting the money from the flood alleviation scheme. How does anybody else feel on that, please?
You mean the culverts, Terry?
Oh yeah, the culvert.
Yeah. I suggest, can we wait until we got some firm figures and then if we need to find the money, we do, or we have to wait. Let's wait for some firm figures on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Martin. Numbers. What sort of numbers are we talking about? Is it thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands? We don't know.
Okay.
2,200 would be no more than that.
Shall we get those quotes in and then apply for the grant? And if we don't get the grant, then we'll put it in our budget for the following year.
I think you're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We will discuss that. Right. We will discuss that at the next meeting and take it from there. But what Jen has just said, I think that's the best way forward. Everybody else happy with that?
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Right. We move on now to the finalise the 2021-22 budget, which is in the Appendix C. Review the notes.
So I've kept the budget the same as last month. The budget was in the CCN, and there was a request if anybody in the village wanted to add to it, comment on it and so on, then they could come back to us, and they haven't. So on that basis, I think we're okay. I've made a few notes here since the last meeting on areas that we might need to think about. The free software we're using for accounting at the moment, they're withdrawing new accounts for anyone outside the United States. So there is a risk potentially that we could be served notice on the accounting package at some point. I'm not overly concerned in terms of operationally, in terms of getting the information out the accounting system and getting it into another accounting system. That doesn't concern me, but obviously there's a budget implication potentially. Software starts at £6 a month and goes anything up to £30 a month if you wanted to go with something like Sage or Xero. So that's one item. The council are not willing to assist with the culverts, so obviously we've previously discussed that. War memorial cost would be about £2,119 roughly, if not less, and potentially we can get a grant for that. Just a note, really, in the last 2 years you've had a bit of flexibility with overspending on things because we've done procurement exercises on other cost lines. You're not going to have that luxury this year. You've overspent on grants for the last 2 years by about £3,000 or £4,000 actually. So overspend is based on budget, obviously. So, and you've not overspent on the Section 137 limit. You could have spent more money. But it's just a bullet point really to think about if you really want to. You're effectively reducing what you've spent on grants in the last 2 years. The school have asked for help for the sign, which we now know. When I did this, I didn't know how much the sign was going to cost. It's £90. And then there's the land registry fees that aren't currently included in this budget. But as Martin suggested, we could use some of the Roman Park money for the Roman Park one, and then the other fund could come out the repairs and maintenance fund, for example. So unless there's anything else, so this budget assumes we will keep it roughly the same as last year, essentially, the precept.
Yeah, that was the plan.
That was the plan, yes. I think all of us have to be quite prudent in our expectations for that budget for the following year and see how we go from there. And we must not at any time put pressure on Lee for anything that we would want to cover. I think it has to be said that we have to stick to the budget this year, or the next year rather. Can I have a proposal then, please, that we've all had a month or so to go through it and that. Could I have a proposal, please, and that we accept this as the budget for next year, 21-22, and bearing in mind that we are not increasing the precept this year, purely on the grounds that we know that everybody is going through difficult times with the coronavirus, and so we're trying to give them a breather. But that doesn't mean to say that we can't increase it next year, because there's a good possibility that we will have to. So a proposal, please, and a seconder that Martin's proposing, and a seconder, please.
Jenny.
Sorry, the hands went down very quickly. You've got Martin as a proposer. Okay, thank you, Jenny. Any other comments, please, ladies and gentlemen, on the budget before we pass it? No, nobody against. No.
No.
Okay, that's the budget, Lee. Thank you.
Well done to all of you involved. That's a big job.
Thank you, Jenny.
Lee's made it a lot easier than it has been in the past, I must admit. So it is a good job. Right, where are we, Lee?
11.
Question times, please.
Yeah, I was just checking. I haven't seen anything come through, so...
Have we had an audience?
Well,
No?
4 people watching this time.
Oh, good. That's very good.
That's better than we normally get attending the meetings, isn't it? So
Yeah, it is. It's very good.
yeah, it is.
For all those people that have been watching us, when we are able to go back as a full council in a room, or even before then, please give us consideration of becoming a councillor, because as you see, there's a lot going on and we do need your help. So if you think would be a good councillor, please contact the parish clerk and he will make sure that you get all the information that's required. Okay, so I'm going to close the meeting at 4 minutes past 9. Thank you, everybody attending. If I can just remind if you could mention to the school about the noise, I'd appreciate that, because obviously it is upsetting a few people. But
yes, I'll certainly do that, Terry. Can I mention to them, which will sweeten them a bit, the sign that we've offered that we're going to pay for?
yes, absolutely.